Alright lads, welcome back to the channel. Now this is a video that I probably should have uploaded after the game on Monday, but I just never got around to doing it. Ultimately, in the end, so I'm delaying it until now. But first video of 2023, and I promise that hopefully this won't be one of the only videos I upload in 2023. Especially as this is the year where this is the La Decima year of the channel, if you want to call it that, because this year 2023, it is the 10-year anniversary of this channel. That isn't a joke either. Like, when you actually look at it, I created this channel on the 13th of October in 2013, meaning this year will be the 10-year anniversary of this channel. So hopefully I can actually upload a bit more consistently, and not make it such a rare occurrence that, because for the last 3 years, like ever since 2020, I have not uploaded consistently in about 4 years. At this point, an upload for me is about as rare as a trip to the barbers, as you can clearly see here. But this will just be a quick video just to recap my thoughts and my opinions now that the dust has settled on the second derby of the season. And the VAR controversy again, and then maybe a small little preview to the game tomorrow against Kilmarnock, which should probably already finished by the time this goes out. So anyway, let's just get into it. So Rangers 2, Celtic 2. That was the final score of the match, and ultimately no damage done at the top of the table. We are still 9 points clear of Rangers. And I still firmly believe that we will win the title, which I'm aware that can get clipped and that can be used against me if we do end up losing the title. But I just feel like when you look at the way we played, like that was some of the worst, football, at least domestically, Celtic have played all season, and yet Rangers still couldn't beat us. Started off actually really well for us. I mean, Dyson Maida scoring in the first 5 minutes, courtesy of a beautiful assist from none other than Alfredo Morelos, who gave the ball away in the middle of the park. James Tavernier, should he have done better with the tackle? He probably should have. Either way, Dyson ran through. It was a nice, cool finish, and it was one that we set after 5 minutes. At this point, the place is jumping. I mean, what I'll always say is about, like, when it's an Old Firm game at Ibrox, whenever Celtic go to Ibrox for an Old Firm game, or if Rangers go to Parkhead for an Old Firm game, I always think the early goal, getting an early goal is so crucial because it silences the home support, which is even more important now when there's only 700 Celtic fans packed into a wee corner at Ibrox, or 800 Rangers fans packed into a wee corner at Celtic Park, which is a joke, by the way. We keep saying it year after year, but nothing's ever going to get done because Rangers shat it after we had too many parties there, because we went down and we kept on pumping them, like the 5-1 game in 2017 or the 3-2 in 2018. We kept on celebrating our team's victories, we kept on winning titles there, and so they just decided to slash our allocation. So we paid them back and slashed their allocation. That's how it worked. So that's what happened. But Dyson Maida gets that goal, and like after that, it seemed like we were in reasonable amount of control in the game. The moment where I feel like it did change, the moment of the game changed, was when Joe Hart had that moment of madness on the goal line. I don't know what it was, and it meant that Ryan Kent had the shot, which, to be fair, as much as I'll give Hart credit in the fact that he did save it onto the post, he shouldn't have. Ryan Kent shouldn't have been in that position when he could shoot for there anyway. And as a result, that meant that the Rangers crowd, which has been basically silent the entire match until that point, it meant they actually had something to get behind their team about. They meant they were in the ascendancy, and throughout much of the last 10 minutes of that first half, I felt like unless we made changes at half time, a goal was coming. But a change did happen in the first half, and that was unfortunately Greg Taylor coming off the park with an injury, which, to be fair, he came out with a belter of a quote though. It gave us the fuck off fat boy quote, which was obviously directed to Alfredo Morelos. So there we go. It was the second day of 2023, and Greg Taylor has already won quote of the year. Nothing will ever top that. for the entirety of this calendar year, but he got stretchered off, and then it meant that Josip Juranovic had to come on the park. And now, one noticeable thing about the lineup was that, first of all, James Forrest started. I don't know why Forrest started, but forgetting just the fact that James Forrest started, Alistair Johnston, he started the game. It was his first ever game in a Celtic shirt, and it was in the derby. Now, a lot of people thought that, like there was one guy, if I find the tweet, I'll shove it on the screen now. Ryan McGinley, who's of the Celtic the Thunder podcast. I mean, they don't need the help, but there's a great podcast, like. But he tweeted it saying, that he feels that it must prove that Alistair Johnston has really been pulling his weight in training. I didn't look at that and think that when I saw the lineup, that wasn't what I thought. I thought that just meant that must have meant that Juranovic wasn't at the races, and the thing is, right, I don't want to see people defending him saying that, oh, he was playing at left back when he's a right back. Listen, he made his debut against Rangers at Ibrox last season at left back, and he was actually pretty good. He's played at left back before, and he's played there, and he's played well there before. That's not the reason. And we've been talking about Juranovic. He's wanting to move away from the club, and well, if he's going to be playing like that every week, then I wouldn't mind him going. Especially if it meant we could get Alistair Johnston at right back. We've basically already got his replacement, and hopefully that means that if Greg Taylor's out for however long, I think Ange said in his press today that it'll be for at least a couple of weeks. But then maybe we can give Bernabe a run of games for a couple of weeks whilst Greg Taylor's out, because I'm telling you, if Juranovic is playing like that, it can't be any worse. So, that's all I really need to say about Juranovic. Really, he was absolutely honking. He was by far our worst player on the park on Monday, and then the second half started, and those first 6 minutes and a half, you couldn't actually have written how disastrous it was. 48th minute, Juranovic again. He was at fault for the first goal, which was then curled in by, of all people, Ryan Kent. Now, I'm not going to call him by his other name, but in case you don't know what his other name is, it requires you replacing the E sound in the name to a U. I think you can do the rest. You can work the rest out yourself. And literally, he's that one player I properly. Oh no! By the way, while we're talking about, I mentioned Morelos with Greg Taylor. He missed 3 clear-cut chances in that first half. We were lucky to even still be leading at half-time. But ignoring that, he was one of our best players on Monday. But Ryan Kent, it had to be him. I can't stand that. That guy. I've always said about Ryan Kent, he looks like the guy that if he wasn't playing in an Old Firm match, he's the guy that would be causing all the trouble off the pitch. Outside the ground and all that. But he got the equaliser, and then Fashion Sakala goes down under the challenge of Carl Starfelt 3 minutes later, and the penalty is given to Rangers. Now, let me just say this, I've seen people argue this on Twitter, it was definitely a penalty for Celtic. We'll get into, or it was a penalty for Rangers rather. We will get into the other penalty claim later on in the video. This could go on for about half an hour, but the Starfelt challenge, it was definitely a penalty for Rangers. It was maybe a bit harsh, but it was definitely a penalty. Tavernier steps up and to his credit, he absolutely buried it into the top of the roof of the net. I don't even think Emi Martinez of Argentina would have saved that. So I think that just tells you everything you need to know. But I resigned myself to this was going to be one of those things. I did not see the second goal coming, and I just resigned myself to the fact that they were going to close the gap to 6 points. This was just going to be one of those days until, of course, it had to be Kyogo Furuhashi. He pops up with his first goal against Rangers in the 87th minute. It was like the ball just dropped in an area where he couldn't have missed it, and and well, he scores an 88th minute equaliser against Rangers, which meant we stay 9 points got top. By the way, I want to mention this about Kyogo and Ange Postecoglou's Celtic, right? And this is what I love about the mentality of this team, right? Kyogo has just scored well, not exactly a last minute equaliser, but it was the last minute of the full 90 minutes, right? He scores an equaliser, against the most bitter rivals, his first goal in the fixture. Most players would have had every right to just fully go on and just celebrate, wave their arms about to the away end. No, Kyogo, he just picks up the ball and runs straight back to centre circle as if, right, let's go find the winner, which is what I love about the mentality of this squad. That's something I just wanted to mention there really quick. So the game ends 2 each, and Celtic say 9 points clear. But could we maybe won the match? Because I can put it off no longer. We've got to talk about VAR and the handball that wasn't. Listen. I'm just gonna get this out of the way. It's a clear fucking penalty, man. I mean, Connor Goldson's playing volleyball, for God's sake. He was starting to play a whole entirely different sport. Now, I don't know why it wasn't given, because we've not had an explanation as to why it wasn't given. It was the whole lack of communication, and this is what's the problem with VAR. I've said this about VAR numerous times on my Twitter. People were screaming about VAR. Thing is, I don't know why. Like, Rangers fans and they were the main ones that were screaming for the introduction of VAR, right, into the Scottish League for years, right? But the thing is with VAR, right, they wanted VAR in because of the terrible decisions and terrible referees. Well, newsflash, those same terrible referees that we've all been moaning about, they're the ones operating VAR. VAR is only ever going to be as useful as, the people that are operating it. So, so it's all well and good moaning about, Willie Collum and, John Beaton and Nick Walsh and Kevin Clancy and all these other shite referees up here in Scotland. But, to say you want the VAR in, it's going to be those same people making the decisions in VAR. For God's sake, this is a country where the referees aren't even full. A lot of them are part-time. I mean, come on to fuck, man. And look, Celtic apparently are speaking to the SFA about they want clarification about some of the VAR decisions, and they want explanations as to why, like, I mean, the thing is, see if we actually got a proper full-on check and explanation as to why Connor Goldson's handball wasn't given, then, there'd still be an outcry, don't get me wrong, there'd still be a massive outcry, but at least then we do have an explanation. We haven't even got that. You know what I mean? It's like, and Ange Postecoglou, said this in his presser, today. He said that, if that was the other way around, it was Rangers that had been, if that game ends 2 each, and Rangers were denied that decision, then the narrative would be that it would have been a title-defining decision. That would have been the narrative after the match in the next few days, and he's absolutely spot on. Ultimately, I'm not sure if we'd have won the game because, our first penalty taker is Juranovic, and as I've already made it clear, he was by far and away the worst player on the park on Monday. So I don't even think I'd have any faith anyway that we'd win the match. But still, if it was the other way around and Rangers had been denied that penalty decision, then it would have been seen as a title-defining mistake. And the thing is, it's not just about Celtic and Rangers. Believe it or not, there are 10 other teams in this league. It's easy to forget about them a lot of times, especially in a derby week. But I just made the point. These decide, like, a team could get. Imagine that was a team like Ross County playing against Kilmarnock, right? And it was Ross County that got denied that penalty decision, right? And as a result, they drew their game against Kilmarnock, and then they ended up losing 2 points potentially, right? And then let's say after all that they get relegated by like 1 point, right? Then that's a devastating effect on the club. Players will be wanting to leave. Certain staff members might need to be let go, all because of an incorrect VAR decision. That is another reason why that's why Celtic should be applauded, if anything, for going to the SFA about it, because this will not just benefit Celtic. This will not just benefit Rangers. This will not just benefit Hearts. This will benefit the entire league, right? Isn't that what we want? Don't we want better officiating? Don't we want better decision making? I thought we want more consistent decisions. Well, I guess we do until it's Celtic the ones that are pushing for it. I guess that's all it is. Either way, it was a clear penalty. I mean, if going like that, if putting your hands here, if that's not an unnatural position, and then Christ Almighty, then I don't even know the rules of the game anymore. But enough of that. Let's also talk about the let's give a quick preview to the match, well, tomorrow or today or whenever this video goes out. It might have already happened. Against Kilmarnock at Celtic Park. Now, we start the season at Rugby Park. This game ended 5-0 to the champions of the Premiership, that is. I'm not expecting the same here. Kilmarnock, they've been ticking along fairly nicely. I think there's only one defeat in their last 5 games or something now. But over that time, I think they've only kept 1 or 2 clean sheets. Having said that, though, Celtic haven't kept a clean sheet at home since we beat Rangers back at the start of September. I couldn't believe that stat when I first heard it. But ultimately, I think Ange will be wanting a response. The whole team will be wanting a response from what generally was a pretty poor second half against Rangers on Monday. And for that reason, I've got to say, I think it will be a fairly straightforward, no another 5-0, it will be a fairly straightforward 3-1 Celtic win. With a Kyogo hat-trick, I'm joking. But it'll be an interesting one. So, I might post a match reaction tomorrow. But if I don't, then have fun. This was the one video of 2023. Bye. As I've said this for years now, I hope to make this a more regular occurrence. Bye. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Whenever that is.